Alrighty, we are now done with the back. What do you think? Okay, so I have this side out. Again, there's no right or wrong side. It's based on whatever color you want to show. And just to recap, in case you forgot, I'm using the color Breathe, which is this like a soft, almost kind of like a golden rose color, and Fawn, which is this lovely natural color, which honestly makes me think of alpacas because of the fawn. But that is one side. This is the other side. Again, where you end row 2, row 3, it does not matter because again, this is truly reversible. This is where we started, went here. I've completed 16 rows. No, actually 17 because I did 16 for the lower portion. And again, the row numbers are within the pattern, so please refer to it. And really you want to check this length here before cutting the yarn in case you need to take out rows or if you want to make it a little longer. So this here should be a comfortable fit from the top of your shoulder to your underarm. And again, we have space here as well. So if you feel like it's a little snug, remember we have the underarm space. We're going to now do the same on the front, but we're not going all the way up in order to create a square neckline. So we're going to do a few rows along the front and then make a strap in order to have a square neckline, okay? So yeah, and this is what you have here, and we will deal with this after we are done with the front piece, right? So this is what it looks like. I tied two pieces together just to kind of keep it out of the way and keep it a little neater. So go ahead and grab your yarn in order to start the front and your hook. Let's see. Now, if you're happy with the length, make sure you fasten off. All right. So I have this facing this way, so I will actually start with this color, start with Fawn again, or in my case, this is color B, and we're going to start again. If you recall when we started the back, this is the half double crochet. This loop here is the half double crochet because it is a multiple of 4 plus 1, right? So we will go to here. This is another half double crochet, but we're adding 1 on each side. So we're actually going to start here. And you can make a slip knot or whatever your preference is in getting started. And then we'll make our chain 2, or again, you could do a chain 1 and then make a half double crochet since this is the extra one, and then double crochet into the next stitch. And now we're going to use the half double crochet from the row below to make our first cluster stitch. So you will continue across the row with the repeat of, again, a cluster followed by skip 3 stitches followed by a half double crochet. Again, 1, 2, 3, half double crochet until you get to the other end where you will make your last half double crochet in the typical pattern plus the extra one. Okay, so work on that, pause the video, and come back when we get to the end row where we will change color and turn just like we did before. Alrighty, now that you've gotten to the end of the first row along the front, remember you always make your half double crochet after a cluster and then make an additional half double crochet, just like so. And don't forget to change to the new yarn color. Again, if you're doing this in 2 colors rather than 1, pick up your additional yarn color. Okay, and this is an additional way to change the color and secure it. by pulling both through, and then just yank it down tight, and then you can make a loose knot. Again, we will do all of this later. And so now you have your starting loop. Turn your work. Again, you could do a chain 2 and then half double crochet into the next stitch, or my favorite way, because it makes a nice neat stitch, a loose chain 1, half double crochet into the first stitch, half double crochet into the next stitch, and then now you make your first cluster around the half double crochet the row below. Again, we will not ever use this extra, the first half double crochet, but we're using the second one. Follow the pattern as before. So again, refer to the pattern on how many rows, and again, you can make an adjustment if you want a higher neck opening, if you want it lower, whatever works for you. I just put a recommendation that I felt would be modest for each size. Again, make fewer, make more based on your preference and what you are comfortable wearing. The whole point of making this is to actually wear it. So we will continue working, several rows for the front, and then move on to finishing the front with, I'm calling them straps, but it's not really like the strap versus just finishing the front portion in order to create that square neckline. And I will see you back here once you're done with your rows for the sides that you are making. Alrighty. At this point, your back should be finished, and we're now working on the front. And what I did here was 5 rows. Started with the fawn. In my case, this is color B. Continue to alternate, again, which does mean cutting at each end. I have not cut here because we're now going to move on to making the width here. And so if you follow along with the pattern, you will see that there are so many stitches. And again, with a stitch like this, I like to think of it as repeats. So I want it to be this wide for each. Now, that's what the math says. And this is where, like, I want y'all to be confident in your crochet. I'm actually going to do this, right? And we're going to do it just like we've done the front and the back, where we have our extra half double crochet, and then the same here, because this will be such a narrow neck opening, right? If I did 4 on each side, that is super narrow. Yes, this will stretch, but like, even though it's going to be open, like, I don't know. I just feel like that would be super, super boxy. And again, this does stretch, but I like this width so much better. So again, if you look at the instructions, if it says to do, say, 24 stitches, you count that out, and that's like this wide, and it's here, that's okay. Make adjustments, okay? Like I keep saying, you want to make this in a way that you will love it and actually wear it, because you're not going to spend all this time just to not wear it, right? So since we are at the end, we are going to cut the end to switch colors, and I'm going to borrow the stitch markers just like before. Once you determine how wide you want I'm calling them strap, you can call it like the front shoulder, call it what you want. Since I'm going to do 3, again, this is the half double crochet, so we're going to make that extra half double crochet in this stitch here. And then working from this end, again, we have our 2 half double crochets, the repeat. For doing 3, again, this is the half double crochet, so we will make the extra one here. That way they are the same width. And we do the same thing we've been doing. Turn your work. Again, you could do a loose chain 1 and then a half double crochet, or you do your chain 2, you make a half double crochet, make your cluster again, working around the half double crochet the row below. Remember, we're not going all the way across in order to create the rectangle square neckline, whichever way you want to call it. I just recommend that it's at least 2 embossed wedge stitches wide, meaning no skinnier than 2, because then that just puts a lot of weight on the fabric. So 3, I feel like it's a really good minimum. 4, again, depending on the size, because as the chest measurement gets larger, the fabric will also be larger in order to, you know, cover what you need to cover. Okay, so we have our half double crochet, and then we make an additional double crochet. Just as before, when you get to the last one, cut your yarn and switch colors again. So continue in that pattern until the front piece is the same length as the back. If you remember how many you made here, subtract that from how many you made if you extended this part before starting the straps. You know, simple math. And if not, just keep checking. Make sure you end on the same row, preferably, so that the colors all line up. So continue, and then we will do the same on the opposite side. And once you've done both, we will then move on to seaming the shoulders. Alrighty, quick tip. When you get to the end, leave a tail long enough to seam the shoulder. Now, if you don't mind a seam that shows, you could do slip stitches or even single crochets in order to attach at this step and then fasten off. And if not, you want something that's invisible, since again, we are making a reversible piece, I suggest cutting a long tail. So don't forget that. And when you start on this side, remember to turn your work, start at the other stitch marker to make sure that your work is consistent with the pattern. So once you've done this side, we'll come back, seam these shoulders, and then I'll show you what we're going to do with all of these ends. All right, we are all done. Woo! Okay, not completely done, but done with a lot of it. And you should have a yarn in, a long one, for seaming the shoulders. Again, we're going to line up these stitches. I always like to start, bring this way, right? Find the first half double crochet, just like so. Bring that yarn in through. Again, I like to make my seam as invisible as possible. So I'm actually going to go back through the first one on the starting side and just work my way across. And yes, I'm only working through one loop. Seam whichever way you prefer, but do this on both sides, making sure that you line up each of the stitches. If you do a few, you want to tug, that way it comes together. So continue both sides, and then we will move on to dealing with our unintentional tassels. When you get to the end, here's a tip. Now, you might be able to see that this looks open. I know it's hard. See that? When you have a yarn tail long enough, working through one loop because it makes it nice and neat, I would actually work my way back through on the other side, doing the same thing. Just be sure, oops, to not lose your yarn in, but weave back through the open ones, and then you have a nice, super secure seam. Okay, finish, and then we'll move on. All right, when you're weaving in your ends, in case you don't know, you want to try not to just go in between, but you really want to try to split the strands. So you're working through a single piece, right? Not the space in between, but let's see if I can get in really close. This is why I like bent tips and sharp tips. So you see each piece of yarn is multiple strands. Try to go in between. And this also hides when doing color work. It helps. And if you don't get it perfectly, that is okay. But I like to work my way down from the seam at least 2 inches. Kind of hook it and then work my way back. And if you can catch the strand that you worked through, that's even better because it really keeps it secure. But I'm going to work my way back to the seam and then work the opposite direction. And to ensure that it doesn't scrunch, sometimes it helps to pull before you weave too far because you don't want to mess up all your hard work. All right, almost on to doing these ends.